Okay, so to do the soft slab construction, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start by rolling some slabs on a piece of canvas. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. To make sure the slabs are uniform, I'm gonna put some of these little sticks down. These are just gonna be my bracer bars, and that will stop the rolling pin from going down and smushing the slab too much. Now I have my massive rolling pin back here. Yay! And I'm just gonna try to make the one in the picture that you sent me. Let me find my wire. I have a block of clay down here, and I'm just gonna cut some pieces. They're slightly thicker than the bars I put down there. So just like that. This clay is very hard because it's been sitting for a while. So there's my slab. And then I'm just gonna roll it. Try to make sure you don't cut a piece that's too thick or the kids might have trouble rolling it. I'm having a little trouble with this guy. Woo! All right, so there's my first slab. I'm gonna roll just a couple more. Now, typically with slab construction, you want to let your slabs dry out so they're rigid and can support themselves. But for this one, since it has all those curvy sides, we're just going to construct it immediately. I also forgot to mention these bars that I'm using. These are about 3/8 thickness, so a little bit bigger than a 1/4 inch, which I think is the best size, but 1/4 inch would probably work too if you're building small stuff. Whew. Okay. So now that I have my slabs, 1, 2. Oh no, put my handprints in that. There we go. What I usually do with my students is I have them draw out a template on paper, which is kind of like a stencil. But for this one, I'm just going to cut out a shape and I'll trace it on the other slab. So maybe my house is kind of like that. Doo-doo-doo. There's my front. There's my back. And then I'm gonna need a rectangle to follow this curve line in order to be the top and sides. could measure this like with a string to see how long it needs to be, but I'm just gonna cut a couple pieces. And I'm gonna save these excess slab pieces in case we wanna do like little door frames or window frames. Eesh. Okay. That's not very square, but okay. All right. So now I'm gonna take this serrated rib right here. I'm gonna score up all the sides. And then this one, I'm just gonna do a little bit, not even on camera, of like a 3/8 thickness on the edge. And I have water. And I'm just gonna slip this up. Now I'm just kind of like pressing this in. And then I'm gonna roll a skinny little coil that I'm gonna put inside there. And the coil, I'm gonna roll from the tip of my fingertips to my wrist to make sure I go all the way around the coil. And I'm going to press this into the side all the way around here to blend it in. And my piece wasn't long enough to go over that last little hump there, so I'm gonna cut some from this other slab that I cut. And I'll just score and slip this edge too, as well as this one to attach them. I like to use the back of my nail to blend the coil in. So now it's a lot smoother in there. So now I'll add a little more over here. And once again, if you measure the length, you won't have to do this little extra step that I'm doing to add the extra piece. So there's kind of a seam still right there, but I'm just gonna cross hatch over it and then smooth it out so I know it's nice and blended. Oops. Just gonna use the back of my nail again to blend. And then my thumb. I'm gonna do that on both sides because I got a seam on both sides. Oops. And then once again, I'm gonna need a tiny little coil for that extra area. And try to make sure your coil is not too thick too, or it could go boom. So you can trap a lot of air in there. And I'm waiting to cut any doors or windows out until it's assembled. Otherwise it would be really, really weak and hard to form together. So there is like half of my house. Needs a little smoothing out, but it's well joined. Now, I'm gonna score up this edge on the inside and this outer edge, and I'm gonna join that one together. I'm actually gonna take mine and flip it to kind of keep my edge rigid. I'm gonna cross hatch over all of the seam on this side. And what the cross hatching is it's basically just like pushing particles from each of the individual parts into each other, which helps it to join together better. And the cross hatching is just so much stronger than using water to smooth things out. So you really want to try to keep as much water as possible off of your clay. Okay, so I have my little, get down there to see it. I have my little form like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push a coil into the interior, just like I did on the other side. And this is going to be a little tricky because it's so narrow, but you can actually build it thicker too. Might be easier for like the kids to get their hands in there. So I'm going to coil that now. And I'm not adding any water when I push this coil on. I'm just pushing the particles together and using the back of my nail to really blend it in. Could use a tool too. I'm just using the back of the needle tool to blend it in because it's kind of narrow up there. And now it is fully coiled on the inside. So there's my basic structure of my Seuss house, like that. There is going to be a seam on the other side. So I'm just going to kind of press any parts that are gapping together. The coil on the underside is holding it together though, so it's okay. And then there's my seam. You can see I'm just going to cross hatch over this again, pushing the particles together. using the back of my nail to smooth out all those cross marks. Now I'm using my finger to smooth it out on the surface. And I'm not adding any water. Water will make your clay really, really weak, and it's already really weak at those joined areas because you added slip. Okay, so that's all smoothed out. Quite honestly, it could be smoother, but I think you get the point. You can just keep rubbing it with your fingers to get it as smooth as you want. But here's my little structure. And now I can cut out any cavities I want for doors or windows or anything. So like if I wanted a little window here, I'm just gonna punch it through. And with this, it's completely fine to get a little bit of water and smooth out that edge, especially because edges tend to dry out. And when you're doing this, just make sure you're always working on a piece of canvas. I forgot to mention that, because slab constructions, they stick to tables just so easily. There's my door. I did not cut it all the way through, apparently. There we go. The one downside of working on the canvas is it kind of leaves a little bit of a canvas texture, but you can smooth that out with your fingers once you're finished with the entire thing. So I'm just really smoothing out those edges so they're not so crispy. That's a really big window. But I think that you get the gist. And then if I want to do any like, I don't know, window coverings or something, I'm actually gonna thin this slab out just a little bit. So I just rolled it with the rolling pin a bit. And then I can make like some little window awnings or door awnings. Like that. And I'm just gonna score and slip this on like I did everything else. The one thing you gotta be careful about and make sure that you really stress is the importance of scoring and slipping doesn't really join everything. You have to push the particles on, even though you score and slip. So what that means is I'm gonna have to go in here with my nail or a tool or something and just kind of push those particles into the surface as well, all the way around. actually gonna flip this little guy and do some joining here. And that's getting a little bent, but I'm just gonna push it back down. And then what I would do is I would have them dry it in a bag until they come back next class. And then next class, the clay will be a lot firmer and it'll be a lot easier for you to come in and kind of smooth out all of the rough details. Like this could use a little polishing. But that's basically it. That could use another window.